gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning.
Yes, I have a gnome hat on. I'm going to keep doing this till people start watching. Hey, we got 3 viewers. Yes, hey, everybody like my... Can we even see the whole thing? Oh, it blends in. But hey, Carol, check out my gnome hat. You like my gnome hat? Yeah, I'm rocking it. I brought this out just because we have a special guest today. Okay, enough of that. Woo! How's everybody doing? Are we good? Are we good? Ah, hello. Irene, hello. So we debuted a brand new intro. I'm trying something new. I'm learning this podcast thing. So if you guys were able to catch the intro and you liked it, let me know. On you, it's okay. Otherwise, they freak me out. You know what? I looked in the mirror this morning and I went, "Oh God!" So it freaks me out too. Carol, I'm right there with you. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. So if you enjoyed that intro, let me know. Give me a thumbs up, or hey, like this thing anyway. Let's get this out there. What do we have to catch up on? Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Oh, I realized when it was playing that, man, I made an awful dark intro, so I had to throw on the old hat there. But you know what? Life sometimes is dark, and we're going to get into that. Not in this podcast, but I got some shows coming up that we may touch on some dark subjects. Let's see. What can we talk about before I bring on our special guest? Well, we were talking before the show. What do you guys think about if we take the old clapper, the clapper to clap on thing, and we make it like a paranormal clapper? You think we can get the ghost to clap? I think so. I think it's a great idea. We're gonna name it the Kos Special. And speaking of Kos, I got a good friend named Greg Kos. He's been around since he went to school with Methuselah. He's been around for a while. But I like to call him my friend. So you know what? We're going to go ahead and bring up Greg Kos, our special guest. Hello, there he is.
Hey, Brandon, how you doing?
Hey, Greg. How are you, buddy?
Okay.
How'd you like the intro?
I liked it a lot.
Oh, well, awesome. Thank you. I don't know.
You didn't light your sage.
That's why I feel weird. Thank you. I even put that in the intro too, didn't I? Oh my God, I'm slipping. Sorry, guys. Hey, if you have sage, light the sage with me. Where's my camera? There it is. Okay. We're gonna light the sage. We're gonna cleanse all the bad crap that we brought with us from last week. And we're gonna, good Lord, at the lighter. And we're gonna take nothing but good, fresh, happy, positive, peaceful energy into the next week. So now that the sage is lit, I actually feel more calm. Good. So back to Greg. Sorry, Greg. I completely forgot to light my sage.
That's okay.
What's going on with me, buddy? What's happening with me?
You're fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you say it, I believe it. Greg, I have so many questions. We've been friends for a little bit, but it seems like you're always interviewing me. Well, I'm glad that it's you and me, and I get to delve into to your world. And you know what? I'll let you pick, but you think maybe we could start with the Estes method and why you love it so much? Can we start there?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
This goes back probably about 5 or 6 years, and we were, everybody who was back then was just using a straight spirit box, and mostly it would be groups of people. And at this particular example we were at Gettysburg, and we happened to be by the triangular field. It was dark, it was night, and I took my gear and went halfway down the hill. Rosemary Eileen Galley walked down with her husband with me, and they continued all the way down to the creek bed at the bottom of the hill. And I went to this huge piece of granite that was about maybe 10, 15 feet off the edge of the trees. And that's where the Confederate soldiers came out of, and then they charged up the hill into the Union guns. And so I was everything was set up, and I started to just do a little talking to them and telling them who I was and what I did and everything else. And they were doing a spirit box session at the top of the hill. And it was people from my group, and you could hear the spirit box plain as day all the way down where I was. And it had to be over 100 yards.
Right.
You know how sound carries in the dark.
Yes.
And a word would come up and it would go head. And one person would go, it said head. And then these other people would chime in, and they started going back and forth and saying, no, it didn't. It said dead. It did Fred, dead.
Right.
And it was just getting crazy. And I said, you know what? I probably will never use my spirit box again. Because, when you're dealing with a spirit box anyway, you're supposed to be, reverent, and you're supposed to be, positive in your nature, and you want to talk to spirit, and you have to have everybody with the intention. And that wasn't even close what was going on up there.
Right.
So who's going to talk to them, really? So I got done there, and I came home, and I saw an article that was on the Estes. And this is like probably about 10 months after those guys, the two guys from the Stanley Hotel, had gone ahead and said this was theirs, and they called it the Estes method.
Right.
And there's another person that says, no, that wasn't the case. The first one was the double blind ghost box. The only difference being is the fact that in between those, there would be a tape recorder just to capture what you're doing. Right. Well, I didn't want to do that. I didn't need that, because I was going to be doing it basically and recording the sessions on my camera.
Yeah.
So, but that's where I got fueled from. And it Carl Pfeiffer and Carl Pfeiffer, Connor Randall, and Kyle. What am I doing wrong here? And Kyle Pfeiffer, I believe, are their names. And they used to do the investigations at the Stanley. And they started to do their own little investigations with a couple friends of theirs, where they actually went ahead and said, here is Big Sexy Rexy.
That's Big Sexy Rexy right there. He's the Dragon Slayer.
I got out of my train of thought. Well, anyway, they were doing these sessions, and they said, why not use blinders? and we'll do noise canceling headphone. And then they would literally let the person hold on to the spirit box, and they hooked it up to the headphones, and they started to do these sessions, and they would ask these questions. And there were only 3 of them, and they were really close to each other, you know, compared to what I do with metaphysical. And as it turned out, they were coming up with some, you know, honest to goodness answers to the questions that were being asked. And that was Connor Randall. He was the man, he was the guy that was the most receptive out of all 3 of them. Connor Randall and Carl Pfeiffer. So I got to say that again, just to, it, you know, you start to go ahead and get screwy in your head about it. But when I heard the other one, you know, and I was like, well, wait a minute, you know, if it's a double blind ghost box, you know, that's great. But, you know, now we're in 2020 or 2018 or wherever it happened to be at the time that I heard double blind ghost box. And that was the original one. You know, I sort of thought about it for a second. I says, well, you know, you can call it what you want. There's no label on it, because those guys are from the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. That's why they called it the Estes method.
Right.
So, you know, that's where it started. And I continued on, and we were doing a session out at Farrar School, which happens to be out in Iowa. And we were me and one of my partners, Mike Wright, and we were down in the boiler room, and we had 2 of the girls that were in the group were with us, and one of them was watching the camera, and they were filming me and Michael. And something that happened like 2 or 3 sessions before this that we did at a historical society up here by us. Mm-hmm. We would do it, and all of a sudden, above the white noise came a ticking. And it was like, what the heck is that? You know, and it was, at first I thought I was starting to listen the way the ticks came, and I was going ahead and saying, well, maybe it's Morse code. Okay. And then it was, no, that isn't Morse code.
Right.
It was following a distinct rhythm throughout. So we had the 2 sessions, then we were doing this one, and in the basement or in the boiler room there. And we got through on a 25-minute session. We got about into 15 minutes. And all of a sudden, Michael freaked out, because above the white noise, it was ticking again. And it was like, we don't know what that is. We don't know who's trying to talk to us.
Right.
You know, and you get a little frisky about it. So I went ahead and ran into, about a month and a half later, I ran into a bunch of people, including Austin Menard.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Maynard. And they were doing a roundtable discussion with a bunch of people that were all TC guys, including the Rathbans and the Yakovetis and people like that. And I decided I was going to ask the question. So I typed the question, and I says, you know, this is what happened. And I described it. And then I said, and we were having this ticking. Do you suppose that we were talking to aliens? I just put it out there just straight, because it was like, you know, you could have a spirit, you could have interdimensional beings that cross over and interconnect or interwoven.
Right.
The same, you know, the same one. So when I put that out there, I don't remember who it was exactly, but they looked at each other across the table, and they started to smile, and they said, isn't that what Frank was all about? Yep. Speaking of Frank Sumption.
Yep.
And I went, holy. And I said, this is it. Because I could see my path, what I was doing and with my mediumship and all that, and the psychic end of it. And all of a sudden, here I was. and I was going straight down this road, and all of a sudden, I started hanging this slight right turn into the spirituality of it, or into the communication, spirit communication.
Right.
And I considered myself at that time, I thought to myself, what if I could go ahead and talk to my guides? Wow, wouldn't that be neat? Or you wouldn't have to go ahead and be sitting there literally feeling what they were saying compared to actually hearing them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it
Yep.
was like, wow, if I could do that every day, this would be fantastic. So that's where that whole thing went. And I continue to do it. And I do spirit box sessions all the time. I have quite a few boxes from KD and KD. And
Yeah.
I have different nanocoms, and I have a retro S box. And, you know, it's so much, you know, I could be working on the computer and I could hook up my headphones and just plug one of those boxes in and talk and, you know, pick up some communication and just listen. Sometimes I don't even hook up my recorder because
Right.
I don't know if they sort of get a little insulted thinking that maybe they don't want to go ahead and be recorded or something. But, you know, who knows? You try to save your evidence that has to be recorded as far as we're concerned. But maybe if they get that close to you, you won't even have to do that. Yes, I do occasionally. And it's not like it belongs to my tinnitus or anything like that. It's totally different.
Yeah, that's more of a ring.
Yeah. But I mean, the ticking is above the white noise, Carol. So you would hear the white noise going through the machine, and then it's above that. So it's pretty bizarre when it happens. It doesn't happen all the time, but it seems to be going in sort of like a pattern of some sort. I don't know why, but that's where that is. And that's why I do what I do. And I enjoy it immensely. I get wired every time I do it. I don't need anything else. I could just do that. And I've got some people that come on the show like Brandon and Katie, and you know, I got Greg Bakken, and I have Dark Horse Paranormal with, you know, that does Bigfoot and the Bunny. They're on too, and it's just and we rotate. We go in a rotation, so everybody gets to come on every third or fourth week. What did she say?
Okay, there we go. She says, I hear, Carol says, I hear it every time I go on my spirit box. I was wondering what it was. And
If
then
you
we
pay,
have.
go ahead.
No, answer that one. Then we've got another one.
If it happens all the time, and maybe something different than what we're talking about, it may be.
And then.
But if it's above the white noise, yes, it has. It has remained the same pattern. And that's why at first I thought maybe it was something to do with Morse code. But what happened with that is, so you guys understand where I'm coming from. I was watching one of those sci channel things that dealt with the satellites that we were sending out to Pluto and Neptune and all that out there.
Right.
And they started talking as the satellites were going out, and they said all of a sudden they'd say, listen, and they had a recording that came back to Earth, and it said, this is the sound that space makes. And it was very, very close to what we were hearing. Extremely close. So
Yeah. Have you
ahead.
seen the what's the name of that new telescope they've got up there? I can't remember the name of it, but they took pictures of space and then they ran it through some sort of audio configuration and they played it. Have you heard it?
I want to say I haven't heard it, or if I have, I've forgotten what it sounded like. But it was all basically, if I remember when I saw it, that was something that led me, when I watched those satellites, to go ahead and like put two and two together and say, wow, this is a real connection.
Yeah.
And if they are that far out when they're responding to us, and they could be, they have no limits,
Right.
it's like, wow, that could be pretty crazy. But Frank, that's why what was he called? The Purple Princess.
Yep.
So I mean, and that's what they knew him by. And they actually set it up where they knew when Frank was going. And they told him that he was going. And they were gonna pick him up. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. There's it's I like to call it the electronic Ouija board. I mean, it's the new way. It's the new everything, and with the way technology just keeps improving, there's no telling, who's reaching out, what we're picking up. Oh, so it just expands the paranormal, and I love it. I enjoy it. Before I forget, let me say thank you for your service. I
Thank
always
you.
try. I always try to
Thank you.
recognize.
Thank you for yours too.
Oh, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, you didn't do anything more than I did.
All right, fair enough. Oh, and welcome home.
Welcome
You know,
home.
you guys, especially your era, y'all didn't hear that enough, and so anytime that I see somebody from the Vietnam era, I always say welcome home. So there we go.
Thank
Now we can have fun. Had to get that. Had to
That's
say
serious.
that.
The seriousness out of the way.
Yeah, let's get that seriousness out of the way, and let's. So, you've seen the world. You've been around, just like me. Um, in different countries. I mean, did you experience different types of entities? Like when you were in Thailand or wherever.
You
I'm
mean
trying to think.
was this being enhanced by what we were
Right.
partaking in it at the time?
I mean, could it have been?
Yes. There in Vietnam, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because see,
it was a little more intense when you were in country, and I
yeah.
was very lucky because my whole tour of where it was hairy was the first 4 months, but that was because I was the new guy.
Right.
Hey, you want to go ahead and do something, and I work for the APO, so I was pushing mail, and I would go in, and they would fly me in, and I'd get out tons of nut, and I'd have the big bags, and I'd bring them in to where the APO was there, and I'd walk in and say, I look up, and there's a Sarge there, and I go, throw the bags. I said, where do you want these bags, Sarge? He says, just throw them over there, and I threw them over there, and I says, okay, we'll see you later. And I turn around and walk away, and he says, whoa, new guy.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way it started for me. And I said, yeah, but I got to get back. Yeah, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about nothing. There's a last plane that leaves like at 11 o'clock tonight. You don't worry about it. And this was like about 6:45 in the morning, and I'm going, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the way it went. But as far as the question was concerned, as far as entities or anything that was really, really highly unusual, I think it all had to do where my hooch was in Thailand. At the top of the mountain was what they called the reclining Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an action, and they had the monks up there, and they would chant, and the bongs and all that was going on. And I can remember going ahead and actually feeling when that would go off, or the bonging and then the chanting, that I would start to feel, real, I don't know, charged.
A different vibration.
Yes, definitely a different vibration. So, and that to that extent, that's where that was. But then I started running into people like some of these monks, and they were at a different level entirely. There were two of them that I knew that actually spoke English, and they were nephews of the first one that decided he'd have his own little. Well, he ended up starting himself on fire when they were persecuting all the Buddhists in Vietnam.
Yep.
And this was in Saigon. And I saw one of them later on, but the first one, that was the one that I can remember people talking about and saying that it was absolutely unbelievable. There's no way that anybody that would do that could possibly have stayed still in that position and never moved.
Right.
And they did that. How did they do it? I mean, the guy came, the monk came all the way across the street and went into that kneeling position type in the middle of the street and took the can and literally dumped it over the top of his head and just lit himself on fire.
Yep.
And then he just went at the end. He just fell over. But it was like, so that rush was, that thing there was another one that was, it was sort of not really from this plane.
Right.
For me.
Right.
So it made me more curious down the line as far as everything was concerned. And then I got back home, and it was like, you go right back into the rush again, the jet rush.
Yep.
With civilization, and it's entirely different. You know what I mean? It's just like there's no room for that anymore.
Exactly. And like for guys of my era, I know for a fact that I ran into a djinn over when I was in Iraq and in that area, and several others were. I know some guys that brought djinn home with them, and that's just a different animal. So yeah, that's why I was kind of curious as to what what you came across in your travels, because everything's different, especially over like where we were in the Middle East. I mean, that's ancient. That's where civilization started. I mean, I've been to Ethiopia and all that, and it's just each place has its own vibration. And I was just kind of curious. I kind of felt I know where you're talking about, and that's in Thailand. That's in Pattaya Beach, right? Or close to it. Yeah, I know where you're talking about. Yeah, that place is. Yeah, I've been. Yeah.
Okay, you know where that old Just Mag compound was.
Mm-hmm.
If you go towards the road that leads you back north,
I know
there was a huge big tree there at the curve when the road started to go north. At least there was when I was there. And then that's where all the shops started. And those shops, now that's when it became Sin City. After I got out of there. But back then they were literally brothels and bars. And I lived all the way down past all that commercial stuff. And I lived down in the far end of it where they used to turn around. And my compound was right to the side of it. And it had concrete walls, and on top of the concrete walls, of course, had the glass.
Yep.
And it had iron gate. And they used to lock it up every night so nobody could ever come in. And I had a hooch on stilts above the clong. And I had a bridge that connected me to the road. And
Yeah, I know the area you're talking about. Yep.
were you down farther to the other side where the Germans were?
Yeah, I was up I was up that way. I mean, but I just believe it or not, I might have been wild at one point, so I'm very familiar with the Sin City area. No, but yeah. No, we were more up past the mountain to the south.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. I had
Let's
friends
see.
all over.
So I've noticed in your podcast you always break at one point to say hello to everybody in the chat, and I think that is a brilliant idea. So why don't we take a second and go through and just say hello to the viewers? So we've got Carol Garcia. Hello, Carol, and Greg. I believe you're familiar with Carol.
Carol.
And then we've
Good to
got
see you.
Danielle Legger. God, did I just butcher your name? Sorry if I did.
Hi, Danielle.
And then we have Irene from Belgium.
Irene.
Carol. Deanne, hi. And then we have Irene.
Irene. I know Irene.
Yeah.
She's from Japan.
Oh, arigato.
She is a medium, psychic medium in Japan. She's in Tokyo.
Konnichiwa.
She's a brilliant lady.
Arigato for watching. Then there's Big Sexy Rexy. Hey, buddy. Yeah.
Hey,
Kevin Davis. Oh, I had a real loud growl come out of that boulder room. You know what? I'm going to star that. Kevin, we're going to come back to that. Evelyn, hello. Candy
Hi,
Slater. Hi. Hello there, Candy. Barbara.
Where's she
Jailbird.
at? Okay, Candy. Hi, Candy.
And
Jailbird.
Yeah.
Hey.
Derek. Hello, Derek. And I believe that rounds it out. Okay, awesome. So let me ask, in every podcast you gotta have the beginning. What metaphysical abilities do you follow? Greg, that's from Deanne.
Wow.
That's a good question.
Wow.
She's amazing. Yeah, she comes up with some great questions. Just put you on the spot, Greg. What do you got?
Holy cow.
Right?
Am I going to be able to cross over on any of these?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Good question.
As far as my mediumship is concerned, are you going there?
You know what? Let's take it wherever you want to take it.
And my psychic abilities, my psychic abilities, my mentor was Scotty Rourke from Madison, Wisconsin. And I was with him for 2 years. And at that point, I considered all my clairs, my clairvoyant, claircognizance, those were all part of it. My third eye development was to the point where I could see shadows. I could go ahead and in my middle of my meditation, I could go ahead and I would go into a town, and my task was to go ahead and be able to talk to the people in the town. And there were certain people that had no faces, and then there were other ones that had details of a face. And I would talk to the ones that had details more than the ones, because it seemed the ones that were just black, they just keep on going whether you said anything to them or not. So I started to deal with that, and I was dealing with at the particular time, with my spirit guides, with my spirit animals at the same time. My whole entire journey, and it entailed going to the zoo for my spirit animals, and going to the forest to go ahead and meet my guides. And the forest to me was always a dark place. There was never any. I think they're trying to find us. Can you send a link to this one that's on the bottom? Maybe Carl can. This one that says Anne Marie Young.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a Facebook post that came up. Anne Marie Young and Chris Carr. If he could send a link for this to them.
Chris Carr is on my Facebook. I can do that.
And then Anne Marie Young.
Okay.
Well, anyway, getting back to where I was, when I first met my first guide, my first spirit guide, it had taken me probably maybe 5 weeks of meditations, 5 days in a row. And it was on the 5th week that I went into the forest. And I went down the same way I did. I had a path through the forest. Scotty, my mentor, had told me that, I didn't have to walk it all the time, that I could go ahead and sit down and they would come to me.
Yep.
But I just kept on walking, and I walked. And I'd go down to the last row of trees, and I got down to the end, and I would go to make my turn. And out of the corner, out of the dark, came the shadow. And as it came into the light, I looked and I just went, wow, what should I call you? And I said, instinctively, I said, Hoppy. Because my main spirit guide was Hopalong Cassidy. And that's how I met him. I when I was a small child, I had a cowboy outfit that was that exactly. And I had the guns and everything. And then it was totally out of my mind, thrown away, totally lost over all those years. And there I was, walking down that row of trees, and all of a sudden I ran right into him. And it was like, it felt so right. And when I asked him that about the names, it was like, holy cow, this is amazing. So, and that continued on like that. I continued to search and pray and talk to my main guide, Hoppy, and ask him about if there were any hints or anything he could help me out on the other ones. And as it turned out, I ended up with 3. I don't know what they're talking about. So anyway, from there, as far as my spirit animals were concerned, my main spiritual animal was a giraffe. And I never, giraffes were too slow at the zoo, and, okay, they were way too big, and, no reason to try to get yourself, what is going on with these people? Get in trouble with them. Anyway, when my first grandson was born out in Denver, Colorado, we went out there. He was about maybe 4.5, 5 months old. And my wife and I and my daughter went to the Denver Zoo, and we had him in one of those stroller type things, blankets on top of him. And I said, where do you guys want to go first? And they said, let's go to the giraffe house. And still at that point, it was like, oh, okay.
Right.
And we got in the giraffe house, and I pushed him right up to where there was a bar light that went across. And this bar, they were talking, and I just started talking with them, and all of a sudden both of them were over on the side, like looking at me. And all of a sudden their eyes seemed to divert a little bit. And all of a sudden it was like their mouths opened up and their eyes got big. And I instinctively looked ahead, and the giraffe's head was all the way down like 2 feet above the baby. And then as it got up from the baby, it turned its head and its eye stared right at me.
Yeah.
And I still, it was like, wow, that was pretty crazy. And there it was. That was like 6 years before I was trying to find my spirit animal. And I was in that zoo and I went through back and forth. The same kind of deal. The animals were all laying around, and you'd have to go up to them and try to talk to them, and none of them budged. Nothing happened. And I just decided that, like Scotty had said, get a chair, sit down, and wait for them to come to you.
Right.
And I did that for another probably 3 or 4 weeks. Nothing had happened. And I was really, as far as my meditations were concerned, I was really, really working and really working and really working. And then I was sitting there one afternoon, and, once again, it's that light and dark. And right out of the clear blue, I'm sitting there and I'm looking in one direction, and all of a sudden I thought, what? And I went like this and turned my head, and here's the giraffe in his eye staring right at my face. And I said, are you my spirit guide? And boy, these guys are going nuts.
Oh, yeah, Chris, hey, no worries, And you have Nick, who said, hi, Greg. I was with you at Hunt the Town in Antioch.
Oh, wow.
If I'm not mistaken, that's Nick's and Aaron G. Thompson's partner.
Oh, hey, Nick.
I believe.
Sure.
Oh,
they were with us in BJ Blinkers, I want to say, in Antioch. When we were conducting the investigations with the groups in the back, and they were in the front. Him and Aaron were in the front, and that was a crazy time too. But getting back to that, when I started talking, I named her Becca, and Becca's been with me. This was something that was given to me.
Oh, nice.
And after I got this, over the next 10 or 12 months, we would go to different places. Like we do a lot of antiquing, and go to different places, that were around that had antiques. And I came around the corner and I'm looking in this booth, and I looked up, and right on the top shelf was a giraffe that was probably about 3.5 or 4 feet high, and it was stuffed. And it was like, what? And it was always at a period where I needed to get in touch with her, or I needed to go ahead and talk and say, hey, Beck, I'm here. If you need to help me, or if you want me to, for some reason, give me a sign. And that's exactly the way it would end. And I ended up seeing 2 of them in the next 4 months. And it wasn't really always at the antique. I was in a mall, and we were walking down, and it was an area that I never went to in the mall. It was this kind of store that I never went into. And I came around the corner and went to go in the front entrance of the store, and they had a stuffed giraffe that was like 10 feet tall. And it was just another sign.
Right.
And that's the way it continued to go. It was nuts. It's been the way my journey has been. As far as metaphysically is concerned, crossing over from time and space and bringing all those variables into play if that's where she was going. I don't know if she was Dina, but that's
Did
pretty
that
much
answer
where I
your
went.
question, Nita? Oh, so where?
Chris Carr's on here now.
Yeah, there he is. Yep.
Hey, Chris Carr and Kristen Johnson from Dark Horse Paranormal,
And
aka Bigfoot and the Bunny.
that's right. And the bunny, not in the bunny, as some people say. But that would be a short lived for the bunny.
Yep.
And I want to thank Nick for coming in and saying hello. We've got famous people in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Famous people in the chat.
Is Nick still? Are you still with Aaron, Nick?
I think we saw both of them last night. They were at Rock Island, the old Rock Island at YMCA last night. Wow. Yeah, Big Sexy Rexy was out there with them, and I guess they had some sort of event going on.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know, Nick, he is as seen on TV.
He's what?
You know, he's one of those you can as seen on TV, Nick. He'll get it. He was wearing a shirt that said that last night. It's a little joke. So when did all of this paranormal like passion, shall we say? Because you love what you do. It shows. It's very passionate about what you do. So when did it turn into the passion? I know everybody says, well, when did you first get into it? And if you're like most of us as a child, we all know that story. But when did it go from an interest into like the passion that you have now? Was it one particular thing or?
I think it was when I started with all the tapes that I got at Christmas for Ghost Hunters when they first started. And it was like, wow, I would really like to do this. And, I had the experience when I was 10 too, and it was at Gettysburg. And I experienced everything, and so did my whole entire family. And when we were out there the next time, I talked to Mark Nesbitt, who does all the tours out there.
Yep.
And him and I had become friends out at Rockford, Illinois, out here, because he had come out, for one of the events, and I went over to him immediately and said to him that I was out there, where you were at, and I gave him the whole story, and he came back to me and he said, wow, he says, that's one of the earliest, witnessing that I have on anything that I know of, because that was basically before they had any events or reenactments.
Right.
So, and that was the grape shot and everything above your head, and you could hear it whistling and stuff like that after it went off.
Right.
And the horses and the guys screaming and the different types of fire, because I knew the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I came home, I really knew the difference, and it made so much more sense. And it was like, wow. So that all happened then. And it was to the point that I had an opportunity to go to an event, and I was being supported by my daughter and her husband. And I says, I'm thinking about going to this event. And then she goes, for what kind of event? I says, it's a paranormal event. And everybody else in the house was looking at me like that.
Right.
And they were going, wow, that's really neat. Dad, you should do that. So I did it, and I met a guy who belonged to a group on the south side of Chicago, and it was Ghost Research Society. And his name was Chuck Williams. And we became close friends. And we still are to this day. And that's the real beginning. And we just continued to roll, and we were on a whole bunch of investigations, pretty much all the way from Pennsylvania, all the way back, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, that kind of thing. Tennessee.
Yeah.
Best one would be Old South Pittsburgh for me early on in my organized days. And I became friends. Well, I knew a guy who lived very close to me that he owns Old South Pittsburgh now in Old Harriman Hospital. His name is Ronnie D. He goes by Ronnie D. And
Yeah.
he lives right in the town next to mine. And when he's in town, I usually see him. And then he goes down there for like 2 weeks or a week and a half or whatever. And then he comes back home. But they have so many neat events there. And Old South has changed so much compared to the first time I had been in there. It was like a garbage heap back in the day. And that's when all the entities in there were pretty much either angry or very, very dark.
Right.
And you saw the pictures of the big guy. He was a huge guy, big head, and he had horns on top of his head. And it was in the hallway. And we had gone through that hallway umpteen times, and every time you walked through that hallway, you swear you had somebody, and half the time you didn't have a flashlight, and it's pitch dark. And you would look for the little light down at the end of the hallway because that was the only thing you had. And it scared the living bejesus out of you.
Right.
But, so be it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
that's part of it.
Kind of comes with the territory, I would,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It doesn't mean you're going to start screaming and
right.
running down the hallway and wetting your pants or anything.
Well, at least not twice. Just saying. I may or may. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's talk about your podcast. Not only are you an OG of the paranormal, but
what's
some
that
of you
mean?
an original gangster is what that means. It's what the kids call their, the like Ed and Lorraine would be an OG as well.
Oh, I'm not. I don't even come close to being OG.
But and you have some guys on your podcast that have been around and been doing this for a long time, like Bruce Holliday and some other guys. So tell us a little bit about both of your podcasts, and then we'll go from there.
The first one that I took over back in the day when it first started up was the Shadow Hour. And I was bringing a different approach to it because I wanted to go ahead and bring in people that I had either met or I had wanted to meet or I had paid attention to and said, wow, I would really like to go ahead and pick his brain.
Right.
And, and not that I do that consistently because I relish the idea of merely talking to the individuals because you learn so much from them just by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So that started up in, like you mentioned, Bruce Holliday, and his counterpart is a gentleman by the name of Jeff Resman from right down south of me here. And last Paracon in Chicago, I was going to be speaking on night number 1, the last person of the night. And I was going to do it on the Estes. And this was before I really, really started to get a grasp on what really was entailed in the operation and everything. And I had everything out on top of a table, and I'm going through it, making sure I got everything because I'm going on in an hour. And all of a sudden, this guy walks across through the outside there in the hallway.
Yep.
comes right at me and stops and says, "Wow." He says, what do you got that stuff out for? And I told him what I was doing, and I was gonna go in there, and he goes, "Wow, that's really cool." He says, "Can I see your SB7?" And he says, "You got any guides?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "Do you have any guides for your spirit box? Do you have anybody that helps you out, that sort of guards you, protects you, and you know that this is your box, it's nobody else's, and it's like a telephone. You got your own, they know where you're at."
Right.
And I said, "Who does?" And he says, "Spirit." When you start to really communicate with spirit and you're on an honest to goodness level with them, where you're being respectful and everything else, they're going to flock to you to talk to you. And I'm just looking at him like, this is getting crazy. And he says, "No, really." He says, and I'm going and I'm saying, I'm looking at my spirit box, and I looked back at him and I says, in our group, the spirit box has been around to about maybe 5 or 6 different people. And he just looked back at me and he gave me that look like, "Not anymore."
Right.
If you want to get serious about this is where you have to go. And you have to let everybody in your group know that this is the extent you have to carry it if you're going to want to go ahead and be in constant contact with spirit through an SB7 or any other of the spirit boxes that you happen to have. So I went ahead and I took that to heart, and I immediately went back, and I had already started my mediumship, and went to Scotty, and that was like, I'm going to have to start figuring out about spirit guides. And he immediately went ahead and says, "Well, we're going to do this, this, and this." And I said, "Fine." And that's where, yeah, that's exactly, you're right, Dina. You're 100% correct. That's that's your call sign. That's you.
Yep.
It's nobody else. And they don't need to get confused because they don't like that much. We all know that. So, but it was that, and then I started getting involved with Supernatural Inc. and started getting boxes from there and really loving them, and going on investigations and understanding that I couldn't bring that spirit box anymore, the SB7. And then I went ahead and I actually did a cleansing on it and everything else, and started to use it on Metaphysical Cross. So, the other show, like I said, the Shadow Hour is strictly my own search with people that I've met at conventions, paracons, whatever. And I'll run into them and I'll say, "Wow," like that Jeremy Leonard.
Yep.
Okay. And I've talked to him, and his name came up in my head last week, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper I got 10 other names, and I'm full through January.
Awesome.
But it's another one of these people that I ran into and I talked to, and I said, "I would really like to have you on my show." And it was like, "Oh, hey, dude, let's do it."
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it was great. So now I just have to follow through with everything. And I'm in the verge of having Andrea Perron on.
Oh. That'll be that. Yeah, that'll be. I mean, I watch your shows anyway, but that's going to be a great one to watch.
It should be. There is no doubt. The other people, I have my favorites, and some of them are in this room right now, for sure. And that's part of our other family, besides Supernatural Inc.
Mm-hmm.
And that is definitely the people that hang around with Bigfoot and the Bunny and Dark Horse.
And there's Anne Marie Young. Hello, welcome.
And Anne Marie Young is part of the circle too.
And then who popped in?
Angela Bully.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, Angela.
Reginald finally found the link. Laugh out loud. Sorry, buddy. Guess I could have
laugh out loud. Hey,
Hello.
Reggie.
So who do you let's see, we promoted both of your I'm having one of those, brain moments.
fart.
Yeah, it's a brain fart. It's a horrible.
On metaphysical, we have been going in different directions with it, and we're trying to come to a solution to a problem that's caused by too many people talking at the same time and not having identifications underneath the people and their jobs. When you get into like if you had two people and both of them two different locations doing double Estes, and then you have to have four moderators,
right?
And then they have to listen, and then you have to deal with the four people all talking at the same time sometimes.
Yep.
And so that's where we were, and we've done 2 sessions like that over the last couple weeks. And it was like we're trying to figure out how we can solve it. And I think we're going back to simpler times that work. And, we've done a lot of experimenting to that extent. And the point that I'm going to make why I continue to go that way is the fact that you had 4 spirit boxes compared to 2. Even though the destinations between them, the locations, was much farther, which amplified the energy. Okay. The boxes is what really amplified it. So we went up from 2 to 4. So that's like, you could say 25% to 75%.
Right.
On 2 different sessions.
Yep.
And where did you go? And it was like, we were bantering and talking twice as much as we were in the past. I mean, literally, you're not sitting next to the person just happens to be on the screen, but we were talking back and forth. On both sides. And this is something that happened to me. The first time it happened to me, it happened at Old South Pittsburgh. And when it happened there, they filmed it, and it was just holy, and I just wanted to say the C word, crap.
Right.
That's sort of what really started to carry me in that direction. And it was like I had the opportunity to start a show. Nick Sarlo was intricate with that with me to get that one, because he was much better at going ahead, setting them up, and getting all the opening and closing together and all that. I had issues typing, let alone setting up a screen and all that.
Right.
And I learned the old way. And I had some shows where by the time it started, my hands were going like this, and I couldn't get a decent thought in my head because it was, oh boy, I'm going to screw up. And it's going to be bigger and badder than it was before. And now since I've turned it all over, they're all here in the room.
Yep.
They're all here to help me.
Yep.
And you know how that is, and you're here to help me too. And you've been amazing ever since the first day I met you.
Oh, thank you.
And we still haven't met each other in the flesh.
No, but that's coming. That's coming probably next year. I think
it's probably going to be in March.
Hey, see, that would be amazing. And speaking of March, I need to plug that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I'm putting on my very first Paracon ever in March 24th through the 26th. It is called The Haunting at the Mill Paracon. It will be here in South Carolina at a place called Haygood Mill. Hey, there it is. And that's the actual mill. It actually still works, man. They still make grits and stuff there. We're going to have a ton of great guests, people like Jeremy Leonard, Brandy Marie, Aaron G. Thompson, and a bunch of others. It's going to be a good time. Tickets are on sale on the Eventbrite. We have a Facebook page. If you just search The Haunting at the Mill, in the little Facebook search thing, it'll pull up, and that's got all the info. What else do I need to? Oh, be on the lookout around next year. I have been pushed to do this, and I have the backing of some great people who are pushing me. Sarah Lemos is one of them behind me pushing. I am working on my very first internet class ever. I'm putting together my things, and the working title is called see the brain fart again. I'm nervous about this because I've never done a class. It's okay. Yeah, here we go. I got it. It's called From Cognitive Chaos to Peace. I'm gonna teach some lessons about how to calm the mind and bring that inner peace back. So be on the lookout for that. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Woof, just saying it out loud makes me nervous. But anyway, I think we'll do okay. Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Oh, thank you for having me, Brandon.
Oh, I don't know what I did to deserve great people like you in my life, but man, I'm living the dream over here.
That's the fastest show I've ever done.
Man, it went quick.
I just looked down at the clock and I went, what in heaven's name? How did that go that way? So fast. Unbelievable.
I know. I didn't even until I had looked up, and that's when I was like, oh crap, I need to start plugging what I gotta plug. That was fun. You know, time flies when you're around great people. You know, and you both are on the same page and with a love of a certain topic. You know, time just flies.
Reach out. Excuse me. Reach out to Dennis too. Dennis is in the room.
Dennis. Hey, Dennis. Yep.
I just wanted to bring that up because that would have been the only one we would have missed, I think.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. So I end my show with a saying, and I always have to do it, but I'm waiting on Carol because Carol helps me close out my show too. So she always says it. Sorry I was late, couldn't find it. We'll rewatch though. Sorry about that, Anne Marie. I'll try to do better with the publicity. But I always say at the end of the show, you know, it's not about surviving the storm, but it's how you dance in the rain. And there it is. Okay. And Carol, as always, she says, remember to smile. I can't end my show without Carol reminding us to smile. That's Greg, awesome. Once again, man, thank you so much for coming on. And if you can stick around for a minute.
Thank you for having me.
And I love each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Because if it wasn't for viewers like y'all, I wouldn't have a show. And, you know, it means a lot to me. Next week, my guest will be Big Sexy Rexy from All Out Paranormal. He will be joining us, and I think that's going to be a great one because, man, he and I, we cut up too, so that's going to be another fast one.
That's a good one.
So
can't wait to meet him.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So you guys stay tuned. As always, you can find all of our equipment at store.supernatural.inc. And right now we are running a sale. The promo code is Paracon10 because we were on the Paracon here on the Bill of Rights Network last night. We're still running that through Monday. It's 10% off of everything on our website. You can also find us right there on Facebook at Supernatural Inc. Paranormal. You can find me if you have any questions. shamansundays@gmail.com. And I have just decided that I will start doing some spiritual guidance one-on-one with people. So if you need it, no charge, by the way, because what kind of shaman would I be if I charged? So if you need some help or just want some spiritual guidance, send me an email, please, and I will get with you. You can also follow me on Spotify. Just look up Shaman Sundays live with Brandon Cooper. Every episode will be replayed. About an hour after this show ends, I upload that. So we have all the episodes that you can sit and watch. Also, please, please, please follow me on YouTube. Just look up at Shaman Sundays. Every episode is also on YouTube. Plus, every now and then I get on there and I put some special stuff up, some lives and whatnot. Monday we have. I missed the scroll through. Okay, we've got Paranormal Nation Radio. Not So Normal. Join Carl and Denise Pridemore on that show. That's a great show. And then, check back on the Bill of Rights Network. We got a bunch of cool shows. Once again, thank you. And thank you guys for watching. And send up some good energy for me as I start writing this course in these classes. I'm hoping that I can help people with this. So,
thanks, everybody. Love and hugs.
Thank you, guys. Love you guys. See you Sunday.